Okay, so today we're starting bacteria. Tomorrow we'll also do bacteria. Thursday we'll start viruses. I'm going to be gone Friday, so we're going to watch a video on salmonella. I conference in the great city of Huron. So, yep, very fun. And then next week, so vocab will be assigned. Well, I already signed it, I guess. You guys already have it. It'll be due next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll let you know by Monday. Does that make sense? Okay. Cool. Oh, yes, I forgot. YouTube video. Very fun.
Hey, can I get another copy as a note?
What's up?
Can I get another copy as a note?
I'll print you off one after class. Where is my stupid cursor? Okay. Oh, shoot.
I'm not going to shut up now.
Oops.
Oh.
No, what do you mean we're scared? I'm scared. He talks too fast.
Well, good thing you're not learning off of him. It's an introduction towards the class. Speakers, there they are.
He's ready. He's fast.
Because humans, we love talking about ourselves, and also because we spent the past
All right.
few months talking
Video on.
here on Crash Course, specifically because humans, we love talking about ourselves, and also because animals are just really interesting. But it's high time that we talked about the rest of the living world. Because I hate to break it to you, but most of the alive things on Earth are single-celled organisms. And by most of the alive things, I mean that these organisms make up 2 of the 3 taxonomic domains of all life, plus 1 of the 4 kingdoms. I'm talking about archaea, bacteria, and protists. With the exception of a few protists, they're all unicellular, and they are by far the most abundant and diverse organisms on Earth. Maybe more importantly, they lay claim to the world's oldest and earliest living lineages, dating back to the very first twinkle of life on this planet. So by understanding these 3 groups, you begin to truly understand life on Earth, its origins, and how everything that came after them, including us, came to be. What's more, because their heritage is so ancient, these organisms often take weird, cool forms that don't look like life as we think about it. And they do amazing things. Some not only live but thrive in environments that would kill you, me, and everything we hold dear, and others make their living by invading organisms, including us, and causing disease. Then there are those that do the opposite, making life possible by fixing nitrogen from the atmosphere, helping animals digest food. Members of these groups have names like sailor's eyeballs and dog vomit slime mold, and they can take the shape of rods, blobs, corkscrews, or coils. Kind of like the doddering, eccentric relatives you're forced to spend some holiday with once a year, the archaea, bacteria, and protists are our oldest, oddest relatives. And it's about time you got to know them. There's no denying it. Every multicellular organism on this planet, whether it be a mushroom or a vampire bat, evolved from a single-celled organism. And while some of these single-celled organisms evolved to populate the world as rhinos and strangler figs, others found happiness in the unicellular lifestyle, and they haven't changed much in the past few billion years. Today, nearly all unicellular organisms are either archaea, bacteria, or protists. Protists, you'll recall, are eukaryotic organisms that make up the kingdom Protista under the domain Eukarya. Bacteria and archaea, meanwhile, are their own prokaryotic domains. And I hope you haven't forgotten this. The big difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes is that eukaryotic organisms, including you and the plants and fungi and animals that you know, have cells with a nucleus that hold their genetic information, while prokaryotic cells don't have a nucleus or any organelles to speak of. These two groups do have some important things in common, like having plasma membranes that are filled with cytoplasm and ribosomes that contain RNA and synthesize proteins, and they both have DNA that carries the instructions for operating the cell. But eukaryotic DNA comes in strands in the form of chromosomes, while prokaryotic DNA is found in rings called plasmids. So again, and this time with feeling, protists are mostly single-celled eukaryotic organisms. Archaea and bacteria are single-celled prokaryotic organisms. The word prokaryote actually means before the nucleus, which is a clue that prokaryotes are an older form of life. And we literally cannot find anything older than Archaea. The first Archaea fossils date back to 3.5 billion years ago. I'm talking just a billion years after the Earth formed and was still bombarded by comets and meteors, not to mention fried by UV radiation. But in the midst of all that, Archaea were just chillaxing. Earth's climate has calmed down since then, so today Archaea are found in some of the world's most extreme environments, in underwater hydrothermal vents, in oil wells, and volcanic hot springs, even acidic mine drainage. Archaea were probably the earliest living things, and their adaptability is probably what allowed them to take root in Earth's early kind of grody environment. One key group of the Archaea are the methanogens. These guys perform more moderate environments like mud, swamps, and your intestines, but they derive energy from hydrogen gas and carbon dioxide, which is pretty cool, and they emit methane as their waste product. Methanogen, methane generators. We know that waste as swamp gas, and also other kinds of gas. The other groups are extremophiles, which not only tolerate but prefer really wicked surroundings. The most famous of these are the thermophiles, which live in temperatures that would melt your face off. I mean, serious, Pyrolobus fumarii, a species of Archaea discovered in the late 1990s in a hydrothermal vent, live at temperatures around 113 degrees Celsius. Not Fahrenheit, Celsius, significantly above the boiling point of water. Most organisms can't take heat like that because it causes their DNA to unwind and their proteins to denature or permanently change shape, but thermophiles have evolved adaptations that keep them stable at these screaming hot temperatures. There are also halophiles, or salt lovers, which live in places like the Dead Sea or the Great Salt Lake, probably Daniel Tosh's mouth. Most halophiles breathe oxygen and are heterotrophic, but there are some bizarro outliers, like species that use sunlight to make energy, but not like plants do. They have light-harvesting pigments in their membranes that react with light and enable the cell to make ATP for energy. I know, it's crazy, but despite their alien-sounding ways of life, Archaea really aren't all that different from bacteria, which are also prokaryotes. In fact, Archaea and bacteria were classified together for much of the 20th century. It was only when scientists realized that they had some important genetic differences, like in the sequence of their ribosomal DNA and the makeup of their RNA, that they were separated into two domains. Bacteria are nearly as ancient as Archaea. Fossils show that they were widespread about 1.5 billion years ago, but there's evidence that they've been around for more than 3 billion years. Today, they make up the vast majority of prokaryotes on Earth, and they're super slick when it comes to adapting quickly. Many bacteria are parasitic. Think your strep throat, your staph infection, anything you've ever taken an antibiotic for. But bacteria can fend off antibiotics and the ninjas in your immune system by garbling up their DNA from one generation to another. They can randomly turn genes on and off, creating unique genetic combination as its population multiplies, keeping its host immune system and drug makers on their toes. Like Archaea, bacteria don't reproduce sexually, but bacteria have devised a way to pass their genetic material to their buddies, a little trick called horizontal gene transfer. For example, you've heard of antibiotic resistance, right? Well, horizontal gene transfer is one reason for it. A strain of bacteria that has genetic resistance to an antibiotic can pass some of its DNA and that drug resistance to another strain, which is why we're always in kind of an arms race with the bacteria of the world. And of course, bacteria are incredibly diverse, with too many phyla to name, more than 24. But one way of classifying them is by their different kinds of cell membranes, which react differently to a staining technique scientists use called gram staining. Gram-positive bacteria have thick cell membranes, and they're a huge group that includes species that live individually, like Staphylococcus and Streptococcus, as well as some colonial bacteria that are responsible for diseases like leprosy and tuberculosis. And there are lots of gram-negative bacteria too, which have thinner membranes. The biggest group here are the proteobacteria, named after Proteus, because they take so many forms. These include bacteria that make our lives possible by converting nitrogen in the atmosphere to compounds available to plants, as well as others that cause stuff like food poisoning and Legionnaire's disease. Cyanobacteria, meanwhile, are the only prokaryotes that use photosynthesis to make their food, and they're some of the most important members of aquatic food webs, providing microscopic forage for all kinds of freshwater and marine ecosystems. Spirochetes are the corkscrew-shaped bacteria that you've no doubt heard of. Most are harmless, but a couple of parasitic species are the culprits behind illnesses like Lyme disease and syphilis. And speaking of sexually transmitted diseases, the last major group of bacteria worth mentioning are chlamydias, which are strictly parasitic and live only in animal cells. They're scumbags, obviously, and are the leading infectious cause of blindness in the world, as well as that eponymous infection of the urethra that makes me kind of want to cross my legs just thinking about it. So, archaea have managed to make a nice multi-billion-year living by surviving in weird, out-of-the-way places, and bacteria have developed ways to pass their DNA without sexual reproduction. But you know who's a hot freaking mess? Protists. Evolutionarily, they're the youngest of the three, having evolved from bacteria around 1.7 billion years ago, and in a lot of ways, they're more sophisticated. For starters, they're eukaryotic, but also some are multicellular, and a few kinds can even reproduce sexually. But their domain is a big crap circus because some protists seem to be more closely related to plants or animals or fungi than other protists. So scientists tend to talk about them based on what else they resemble. There are protozoa, which are kind of animal-like, algae, which are kind of plant-like, and fungus-like ones, including the tastefully named slime molds. The one thing all of these have in common is they need to live somewhere wet, in a bog, or in your body, or in a snowbank, wherever. Protozoa are actually really cool because they're like tiny animals. Like us, they're heterotrophs, so they have to eat other stuff in order to live. And because they need to eat, they've got like mouth parts, or at least mouth part sorts of things. And they can move around by using all kinds of really cool structures. Some have flagella, the whip-like tails to propel them through the water, or cilia, little hair-like structures that work like oars, and some move around with a kind of blobby, amoeba-like motion. I say amoeba-like because the protozoans that move this way are amoebas. And speaking of amoebas, some protozoans are parasitic. You've probably heard of amoebic dysentery. That's caused by amoebas. Malaria is caused by this little guy, a protozoan called Plasmodium vivax, while African sleeping sickness is caused by Trypanosoma brucei, this guy here. Moving on to the plant-like protists, which are algae. All algae photosynthesize like plants, even though they're not plants, because they use different kinds of chlorophyll molecules. Some are unicellular, like tiny diatoms, which have a hard shell made of silica. The amazing thing about single-celled algae is that they can get really honking huge. For example, ladies and gentlemen, cast your gaze upon the sailor's eyeball, thought to be the biggest single-celled organism on the planet, also known as bubble algae. It lives on the seafloor in tropical oceans and can grow up to 5 centimeters across. How is that thing one cell? Anyway, you already know multicellular types of algae, aka seaweed. They're closely related to land plants, as you can tell by looking at them, and they're generally grouped into red, green, and brown varieties, although these all have their unicellular forms as well. The green algae are probably what gave rise to land plants about 475 million years ago. They're the most abundant and diverse, and they have chloroplasts very much like land plants. So they can only live in shallow water because they need a lot of sunlight. Red algae is able to live at greater depths and has an extra pigment in it called phycoerythrin, which gives its chlorophyll a boost in deeper waters. And brown algae is what most of the seaweed you see in the ocean is. Kelp is an example. They're the largest and most complex of the multicellular algae. Finally, we have our fungus-like protists, which include the delightful slime molds. They absorb nutrients from their environment and produce fruiting bodies like fungi. But even though they look like piles of barf, they can actually move around like an amoeba and eat bacteria by phagocytosis. Slime molds can be pretty easy to spot because they're often brightly colored, like this charming species, which in all seriousness is known as dog vomit slime mold. You heard me, these organisms are so freaking screwed up that scientists couldn't think of a better name for it than dog vomit slime mold. Like I said, they're old, they're odd, get used to it. Thanks for watching this episode of Crash Course Biology. If you want to catch up on anything that you're a little fuzzy on, table of contents over there. Thanks, of course, to all the people who helped put this episode together, and if you have any questions for us, please, Facebook, Twitter, or the comments below. Bye.
Bye. Pretty sweet. Absolutely. Tell me one thing you learned.
Dog vomit.
Dog vomit, yes.
A bubble on the bottom of the sea floor and it can get up to 5 centimeters.
There we go. All right, you are learning. Cool.
You would know, Chris, fungi are weird because they're alive.
Yeah. Well, our
I did. I'm saying.
is algae a plant? Or excuse me, is seaweed a plant? No, seaweed is not a plant. It is a precursor to a plant.
It's whatever you said.
What'd you ask?
Precursor to a plant. Boom. Prokaryotes. So,
How much I hate so.
How did the Greeks even know what a nucleus was?
no.
No, Greeks were before the nucleus.
You're right. You're right. It is using the Greek language for before the nucleus. So the Greeks didn't. The Greeks.
Beans before the nucleus.
No.
So how did the Greeks know about
General Gormal.
Nucleus can be used in other contexts. I can't think of any, but I'm sure they're out there. What's that?
Why do they have a word that means before?
No, that's the thing. It's a combination of different. Pro means before.
I thought pre means before.
It, both do.
Eukaryotes.
Prekaryotes? It's a good question. It's pro.
What's it mean in Greek?
Why don't you go change signs?
Why don't I? It says pre means before, not pro.
Pro means before. And then karyotes apparently means before the nucleus. I don't know how to break it in. Yeah, or the nucleus. I don't know. The first and most numerous organisms on Earth. So, most numerous, meaning
A lot of them.
there's a lot of them. They're all over you.
Cat.
They give you
Wait, so
They
it's
can
right
trace
for like
back
length?
3.45 million
Um,
years to
Yeah. So,
billion.
like I was saying, the lines won't add up. So sometimes you might have to add stuff. I'll make sure you get all the information you need. And so, I don't know.
Are we just writing this on a notebook or what are we
No, your sheet that you don't have. That you should get from your buddy.
What does it mean in Greek? Sorry?
Before the nucleus. And so, like I was saying yesterday, there'll be some growing pains in between me and Mr. McKenney's form. So Mr. McKenney had actually made that a couple years ago, I'm sure. But this is my PowerPoint. So they won't line up exactly, but before, I guess I'll do it probably next Monday. I will give you the main key points of the actual sheet. Does that make sense? Just so no content's missed, because that may happen. Sorry if that is. Yeah. So mostly single-celled. There are some multicelled prokaryotes, but it's mostly single-celled. Yes. This one I do know you need to know is the domain archaea and the domain bacteria/eubacteria. So, speaking of pro means first, or it doesn't mean first, it means before. Eu means new. So eu means new, if that helps. So new bacteria. So what do you think came first, the archaea or the eu? Archaea.
Definitely the EU.
Nope, archaea. That was a good guess, though. Think of, what's up? Yeah, go. So, yeah, think of archaeology. Archaea, archaeology.
John, you have to use the other water fountain.
Chill. Jesus loves us. They can be traced back to 3.45 billion years ago, which is a long time ago. Greek for before the nucleus. Decomposers. Write that down. So there's two decomposers on Earth. They're the prokaryotes, specifically
Fungi.
and fungi. You got it. So, yep, specifically bacteria and fungi.
What?
What's up?
He's done here. I'm up here. I don't really pay attention.
Right, archaea, right here. Right, decomposers, right there. Right before the nucleus, right here.
Chris said that.
Right?
Yeah, I think he should. Where's the
Speak to
I
you.
gotta put my foot on the back of this coat.
I guess. Yeah. your feet down, please.
Oh, fungi. Or
Thank
plants.
you. Thank you. Fungi are not plants.
No,
Fungi-
Fungi or.
Oh, about what?
See, Mr. McKinney.
I like fungi. They're way cooler.
Mr. McKinney would have said it for 5 minutes.
Okay,
What's wrong?
bacteria.
This picture.
Bacteria are prokaryotic organisms that belong to the domain bacteria. It's a bad definition. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. Because yeah, I don't like that. Now that I said it out loud, it's silly and whatever. I'll give you the definitions later. They're the most common and most diverse organism on Earth. So I said prokaryotes are the most numerous. If we break it down further, where we're differentiating between bacteria and archaea, bacteria are the most diverse. So think of animals, so a group of animals, all animals. Bacteria are way more. There's way more species of bacteria than, yes, than animals. Yep.
So like the dog, but there's not.
Found almost everywhere except extreme environments.
Can we just keep writing this on the video?
Yeah,
Underwear.
I know. That,
Where are we gonna put it? Should we
you guys have notebooks?
You guys say, can we just write it?
Use your notebooks, yeah. And then, okay, I got a great idea. So, use your notebooks, and then this will be a study guide for the exam.
So can we use it for the study? We can have a notebook.
Yes.
Yes!
Okay. Oh, ooh,
Yep. Quote.
I like that.
Yes.
Let me think on that.
See,
I'm
the
not.
thing that I always really like is I wish we could do a pre-quiz and then the quiz.
Oh.
But
Okay.
the pre-quiz, you don't grade it. You go over it with the class. Unless you're good.
Let me see what I can do with
That's
that.
what every other teacher does.
So basically,
Let me
go
go.
take the test, not grade it, and take the test again, and grade it.
Because Mr. Gross, he reviews with us, gives us the exact answers that are on the test, and then we do the test tomorrow.
I feel like cheating.
Let me do some thinking on that. Yeah,
It's just like a memory game. You know,
that's true. Oh no, I'm not against that.
All right, good. This is not.
All right, back up front. So, they're the most diverse organisms on Earth. Bacteria are the most diverse organisms on Earth. They're found almost everywhere except extreme environments. Underline that, or star it, or italicize if you're good at handwriting.
I can't. Yeah, you should.
No, that's why you're taking notes. Use your notebook.
Yeah, you flip.
My notebook section.
Where are we writing this down?
Paper, like I don't have any.
Use your notebook. We're gonna use the sheet I provided to you as a study guide. Does that make sense? Yes.
We're on my study guide. Do I have to find this, or are we just writing this on our notebook?
Write it down. Oh, you found it on your
I
study?
haven't found it
Yeah, exactly. Because it's mine, and that's Mr. McKinney's study guide. That makes sense. We're improvising, is what we're doing right now. Have strong cell walls that contain peptoglycan. Some bacteria have a second cell wall that can be used to identify them. So, if we're thinking back to yesterday, no, not quite. Pepto-Bismol. Nope. Yesterday, what did we draw up on the board? What were we?
You drew like 2 cells.
Yes, gram stains. Yep, we were talking about gram stains yesterday, and one had a very thick wall, just one, and some have a thinner wall, but 2 of them.
Have more than 2 or
Just 2. Yeah, just 2.
What kind of question was that, idiot?
And we'll go over gram stains later. And then often used for commercial purposes. Can anybody think of bacteria in commercial purposes? Cheese. Hey, there you go. Is it any food? Anything else you can think of? Bread. Yeast. Yeast and bread. Yeast is a fungi, but that's okay. Pretty sure.
What was the question? Bacteria bites.
Bacteria bites. Yogurt. Yogurt's one of them. Dry aged steak.
You guys have never had bacteria bites? What about
Cottage cheese, yep. Blue jeans. Did you know that? So denim is actually white. Denim is white and it's dyed blue. And how they get the blue dye,
Use blueberries.
no, they use a bacteria to produce
They crush up
the indigo. So they use bacteria to produce a dye. So blue jeans is one of them. Archaea.
Wait, go.
Oh, my bad. My B.
This is why you're coming to a C game? The ball out.
I should. What time is it?
4.
Oh,
You tell me to ball out.
okay.
You got a park on the sit.
You don't have to go.
I want to.
No, you don't.
Is the game in Estline? That's Thursday. I'll be going to that one. Not the girls' game though. I'm sorry, because
Sounds in Hendrix.
I'm gonna be in Huron. Yeah, I know. Otherwise, I'd be there.
I hate Hendrix.
Yeah.
I just hate horribly old.
Okay, you guys done with this?
No, I'm right. It just started. I was there. I was doing the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Be here for a while.
We'll give you 1 minute.
Hold the white bottle.
What? We'll talk about viruses.
Later.
It's so this is 8.1
This is 8.1 and 8.2.
viruses. Yep. I'll write that down. Bacteria and viruses.
Are you guys cheering?
How come we learned about before the dinosaurs and then just
Yeah,
stopped?
why'd we go the dinosaurs and then go backwards? Wait, are you guys doing the
What do you mean?
the soda thing?
Oh.
And how come we're going over bacteria?
Oh, okay. I can tell you why. Because if you look through your textbook, evolution comes right before bacteria. It's by chapter.
They structured it weird there.
Yeah, we're not going based off of timeline of events. It's how.
If they just did it based on timeline of events, that would have been way simpler.
Yeah,
So
that's
what are
something
we
I'll.
going to after the dinosaurs?
I don't understand how this made
During the
When do we do more dinosaurs?
Yeah, what do we do something? See, like I said,
Did you?
it-
Oh yeah, you did.
I said this in math. It goes,
$10.
Hayden learns about dinosaurs.
bacteria fail. Dinosaurs, 80 out of 80. Bacteria fail.
Time's
That's how it's
up.
coming.
Better than-
We'll make it happen.
Dinosaurs are just cool.
Dinosaurs are cool.
They're cool.
Are we good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually cool.
Okay. Where are you at?
After bacteria.
Found almost.
I'm at the second, or like the last.
Peptoglycan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just finished that.
Okay. That's cool. I mean, honestly, my main fear is not having enough stuff to talk about, and then I'm sitting around.
Spiders.
Yeah, feel free to take your time. It's on sunshine.
Okay.
What about you, Mr. Wagner?
What's that?
Why am I in fear of spiders? Are you scared of spiders?
I don't like snakes. Snakes are my. I'll pick one up, but I don't like it.
I like snakes. They're not.
Snakes are neat.
I just don't like the
That's how you
size.
conquer your fears.
Big.
In my old house, there was
All right,
they were
we're moving on.
in front of my house. We find snakes and we find them and we chuck them.
So Archaea is, I forget the real name, or I forget the broken down name, but it means old, like it's the first.
Archaeology.
No, but yes, I like it means old. And so they belong to the domain Archaea. They're known as extremophiles. Somebody define that for me.
A freak.
No, not quite. Okay.
Get out of here.
So extreme means extreme. Phile means lovers. So extreme lovers. They like high salt.
So like,
Guys, what are we doing?
hey, don't say guys.
No, I'm talking. Oh yeah, you're right.
We're extreme lovers.
Okay, so from super high salt content, think of an area that has a high salt content.
The ocean.
The Salt Lake Flats.
Salt Lake Flats, the ocean, specifically the Red Sea.
You shut up.
So the Red Sea, you guys know about the Red Sea?
Yeah. Too many words. Red.
So The ocean has, I think, 3.5% salt in it. Like three. Yeah, it's like 13%, so it's way saltier. And it only takes a special. They live on the top of Mount Everest. There's bacteria that lives in the clouds. Did you know that? Yeah. That smell. That smell you smell when it rains. You're like. That's the bacteria. Another fun fact is that humans are. I'm going to screw this up. Humans are like 10,000 times more receptive to the smell of that bacteria, the rain, than bears are. Bears have like a ridiculously higher, better nose than bloodhounds, can smell blood. Yeah, so, okay, think of a bloodhound, how well they can smell. Think how well a bloodhound can smell, right?
Bears can smell what?
Bears can smell way better.
Everything?
Humans can smell the bacteria that's produced by the rain 10,000 times better than bears can smell blood. I don't know. I was extrapolating, but that's the stuff you're smelling after rain. And then methanogens. What does this mean? Methane producers. Yep. Generators, absolutely. Where do you think we could find a methanogen?
Underground.
In a swamp.
In a swamp. Does anybody know something that produces methane?
Thomas. A lot of it.
Yeah. A fart is methane.
Thomas.
So that means there's methanogens in our digestive tract. Okay. Okay. Structures. The nucleoid. The area of the cell where large circular genes are found. Do they have nucleuses? No. Right? Is that, I mean, you are correct. Why? How does prokaryotes get their name? Before the nucleus. Yep, so that means prokaryotes do not have a nucleus. They have a region, and it's called the nucleoid, but it's no true organelle.
So that big green thing doesn't have a nucleus.
Correct. It's just got DNA floating around in there.
If I broke it open, I'd take out.
You probably couldn't see it.
Yeah, I guess I saw.
Did you know strawberries have like the highest content of DNA for any modern?
Yeah, you can take the DNA out of
Yeah,
strawberries.
you can.
My parents farm strawberries.
Do you?
When I was like the strawberries.
That sounds fun. Yeah. All right, let's finish this up. Capsule. Know this. A layer of polysaccharides that forms around the cell wall. Used to help prevent drying out. It's also a form of locomotion. What does locomotion mean?
Train.
Movement. Locomotion means movement. So they use the capsule. It secretes a slime, and they use it to move around. And then it's also used as a form of protection. So when a bigger cell from white blood cells, so if a white blood cell comes and wants to eat up a bacteria, the capsule, no, it just protects it. It doesn't allow it. Pili. Submicroscopic hair-like structures found on the outside of the cell. Helps bacteria attach to surfaces or other bacteria. And we have two more structures after this. Huh? What's that?
Bacteria get
Burns? Oh, that's a good question. Probably not. They don't have fingers.
But could they, theoretically?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Get off it. They're not.
It's starting to hurt my hand.
Is it?
That's why I'm not
It's
ready.
good. Get strong hands.
Because, hey,
No, stay. Okay, moving on. Last one, or last two, excuse me. Cell wall, a protective barrier made out of peptoglycan. We already know this, right? We talked about it earlier. A protective layer made out of peptoglycan. Does anybody know another organism that has a cell wall?
Cows.
Nope, they do not. What's that? Plants. Plants have a cell wall. Do animals?
Yeah.
No. Do fungi?
Yeah.
Yes.
How are we supposed to know this information?
I know. I'm just asking. I don't know. You don't have to.
So we're not supposed to know this?
There's no grade to it.
No, but are we supposed to, like,
What's up?
did you teach us something?
No. I was just wondering if we had already known that some cell walls. It's more of a inquisitory question. Does anybody know what a cell wall in a plant is made out of?
Yes.
It is. Sugar.
To be more specific.
Sucrose. And then last one, flagella. A thin, that's supposed to be thin, tail-like projection that allows the cell to move. A thin tail-like projection that allows the cell to move. Hey, you did. You just learned it.
No, you learned it in plagiarism.
Oh.
You made it bad, Tom. Look at
I mean, like, I'm like funny. I don't know. Okay. And there's a picture. These are the pili right here, coming around.
That's not, there's totally not there.
The nucleoid,
Is that its tail?
flagella,
That looks like something else that I learned in ag.
a sperm cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would look very similar. Cell wall, capsule. No, I mean, there you go. All right.
Can you go back though?
Yes. See you guys later.